All right, here we go. Let's call this Community Library Network Board of Trustees regular meeting to order. First item on the agenda is roll call, and we have everyone here. In addition, I have invited Bob Fish from our financial committee to be present. All right, and we need that. The next item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance, which we are going to use the flag over there on the wall. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, and the next item on the agenda is response to public comment. Is there a response to the public comment from last month? There's not a one on the board.
Katie, it's very hard to hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
There's nothing you can do about that. Is there an off switch or anything?
We'll go ask. Judy, just a second. Please stay. We'll have somebody else ask.
Carol's gonna ask.
Okay, Carol's gonna check it out and see what's going on. Go ahead. Yes, Amy.
Okay. Yes. I just had one thing I wanted to respond to from last month's public comment. Mention was made about software that the library uses, Collection HQ. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that software and the function that the library uses it for. We have used this software since 2015. This is a collection management software. This allows our collection management department to run a variety of different reports. So they can do things that are outdated. So they can look at things that are 5 years or older in publication. This would be especially applicable to things like travel books and health books to see, do we need to replenish those with more updated? If it's travel to Florida, you would want the 2021 book, not for 2022, not the 2018 or 2016. Collection removal, so it allows us to look at things that have not circulated at all for 2 years or more. Grubby items, so we can look at things that have had 40 circulations or more. And grubby is the exact term, that they might be really dirty because they've been handled many times, so then it would allow us to be able to replace that item. Collection demand, so we can start to see what authors and subjects are super popular and then order more quantities if needed. Top authors or titles. We can even run reports like dead on arrival, which would be something that was added to the collection and for 6 months nobody checked it out. So then that might help us be like, well, maybe that topic's not popular at Hayden, we'll move it to Apple, where it might be more popular or something of that nature. It does have a module that was mentioned, diversity, equity, inclusion. We only received that module 6 months ago. So in the 7 years of subscription, we've only had that module for the last 6 months. And it's only informational. So we could run a report if we wanted to, but it would just tell us what percentage of our collection falls in a variety of different categories to see if we're overrepresented or unrepresented in certain areas. But we've only run that report a couple of times for information. We haven't used it to make any decisions about our collection. And so it's really been helpful because we've been able to save money with this software, because rather we can move items from, let's say it's not very popular at Harrison, but we move several items now to Pinehurst, and maybe before we might have been like, we needed to order more from Pinehurst, but now we can share more within the collection by moving things around, by running these reports. It also tells us if we need to invest a little bit more in certain categories, but again, it's only informational. We would just run the reports, and then our staff would make decisions that would be appropriate for managing the collection. So just wanted to share a little bit more about what that software does and how we use it internally. And that software actually is purchased out of our software budget, not our databases budget.
Questions? Concerns?
I have a question. I just thank you. It's helpful to remind me again. Trying to be thoughtful again, which is doesn't pay the home doesn't pay its rent. And we don't know where it should go.
Who uses that? Publishes it? You know?
Yes. Hold on just a second.
Library.
I mean, the company is, I think it's called Collection HQ, so they're their own company.
Okay, they are their own company. Is it a program that's widely used in public libraries throughout the country?
Yes, particularly for medium to large libraries. It's used quite widely, particularly for these what are called managed modules that are running checks on your collection, like how many times they've circulated, what the movement is, how outdated they are. And it replaces some really manual and cumbersome reports that we can run inside of our catalog system, but this does it much more efficiently and even to a much greater depth and detail than we would be able to do on our own.
I remember when we got it, and we were excited about how much it could do and how valuable it could be. But when we got a presentation by the staff on it, but the two new trustees were not in on that. Is this something you'd like to have happen? Would you like Collection HQ a presentation given to you? Some of it was given. It would require a special meeting probably, because I don't know that it would fit into a regular meeting. So is that something you want to do? Okay. All right. Video that we can watch on our website.
Yes, they do have some resources on their website that have some videos, so I can look for those and share those.
Yeah, that's okay. So for the moment, we will wait for our director to, or Jeff.
Oh, I just wanted to share that the biggest takeaway I got when we had the presentation on Collection HQ, or when Carrie came, that it's been particularly helpful for reading the collection, and because the collection is ever changing and dynamic, and so rather than like Amy, you were saying, it's very cumbersome for librarians to do that, but the program tells you this item hasn't circulated for however many years.
Okay, so at this point in time, we will just wait for information from the director, and then we'll look at it, and if it's something that we need a special board meeting for, we can do that. Okay. The next item on the agenda is public comment, and I'll give my little public comment speech. The public library is founded on the First Amendment, which is freedom of speech and freedom of assembly, and that's what we're doing here today. We're gathering together to freely speak. Two most important things I want us all to remember today are to be respectful of one another and to be civil to one another. You may not like what someone is saying, but we all need to listen and let them say it without interruptions or distractions from any of us. Let's treat people as we would wish to be treated if we were up at the mic. And then to the speakers, please sign in if you come in late, and I do have a sign-in sheet. We will let everyone speak who wants to speak. You do not have to be a resident of this library district in order to speak. Please limit your remarks to 3 minutes. We do have a timer. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Thank you, Lindsay. And when speaking, please tell us your name and what community you're from. That helps us keep track of how we're doing each of our library communities. And please remember that this is an opportunity to address the board, not the audience. Please keep your remarks to issues concerning the library. And if speakers go to other topics, I will stop them and ask them to focus and to board to finish speaking. And as always, this is the time for the board to hear from the public. We will not be responding except to correct misinformation. After the close of public comment, everyone's welcome to stay and listen to the rest of the meeting. And we have agendas on the table. I always never know when they are. And we also have the agendas and minutes of our meetings on our website. So our first speaker today is Kyla Wheat.
Should I try and speak into the mic like this? I'm kind of tall, so. Or, okay. I'll kind of hold it like a child. Oh, thank you. Okay. So just kind of. So are we? Okay. My name is Kyla Weems, and I am from Post Falls. So glad to know that there are no books on the chopping block. Woo! I think this library has yet to see the end of its battle against censorship, but today I wanted to bring something else to the board. First things first, I want to say I love my job at the library. There are so many parts of my job that I find so enriching. This job has given my life purpose. Although I find worth in what I am doing, I feel as if the district does not see it that way. There are 26 part-time employees at the Post Falls Library. There are 3 full-time positions, and I might be wrong on that, but the percentage is way off. So this is absolutely ridiculous. Why have double the staff and only provide part-time, some may ask? So we don't have to pay librarians benefits. Some of the board members worry more about restricting books they find offensive than the welfare of their employees. I currently get paid $13.50 an hour and work 19 and a half hours per week, not even a solid 20-hour work week. This is insulting, especially in this economy where we can all agree gas prices are outrageous right now and the price of living is almost as expensive as dying, which some may know is very expensive. I did some research to find full-time receptionist jobs in Post Falls and what they get paid. The average was $15 to $18 an hour full-time. I chose a receptionist job because I felt like it was very similar in the effects of customer service and organization. But mind you, a receptionist doesn't have to stop a teen from stabbing another teen, help a man log into the IRS's website for 2 hours, stop a small child from running out into the parking lot, almost getting hit by a car, someone yelling and threatening to sue the library over a change of furniture, handle hostile situations with mentally ill and homeless individuals, take care of someone yelling profanity and racial slurs near children, and much, much more. All of those incidents I have handled myself, and not to brag, but I'm going to brag, I did it pretty phenomenally. My job requires an extreme amount of patience, empathy, and customer service skills. I feel the district doesn't respect me as an employee and the work that I do. This is more than a job to me. I want this to be my lifetime career. This district doesn't give its employees the chance to advance or make this a lifelong career. Although I know these things are taking time and the board is talking about it, I want the board to hear not just me, but my coworkers at the Post Falls Library. We deserve good pay. We deserve full-time employment, and we deserve lifelong careers. Yeah.
Okay, Mariana Cochran.
This photo, taken 2 weeks ago in Post Falls, has 7 titles from one author, conveniently assembled and displayed waist height on the teen section shelves. So since CLN sees fit to herald Pride Month, let's sample a book from that same author, which is replete with deviancy and homosexuality, Tricks by Ellen Hopkins. Note that the main characters are 15 years old. Plan C means courting Jerome's affection, pretending to enjoy his deviant sex. Tonight, that means letting him call me mommy as he sits on my lap and nurses. I stroke his hair as a mother would, dig deep inside for the words, "Mommy loves you, Jerome." That excites him, as I guessed it would. "I love you too, mommy. See how much?" I've started spending too much time online making virtual friends. I even found a chat room called Men Kept by Men, my kind of room. Carl explains I enjoy a bit of variety from time to time. I expect your wholehearted participation. He pushes me, and not gently, towards Brett. They move in unison, and I am sandwiched between them, Carl behind me moving sensuously, while Brett rests his chin on my shoulder, and he and Carl are kissing. It's a cobra dance. I am charmed. Seduced by sensual motion behind me and in front of me, both men grow hard. I respond in like manner. He stops kissing Brett, but neither man quits moving, writhing like mating hooded serpents. Don't rush, and don't you dare close your eyes. I want to see how much you like it. He moves in front of me, strips Brett from the waist down, pushes him onto his hands and knees. Then he drops his own trousers. Come on, he urges, positioning himself inches from Brett's face. I move behind Brett, grab his shoulders. Brett moans as I don't stop and I don't rush. Finally, I beg Carl's permission. Now, please? He nods, and I do. We all do. Why would library staff feature a collection of books to teens with graphic descriptions of teen prostitution, sex, homosexual group sex between adults and teens, rape by a parent, crack and heroin addiction, and suicide? Don't waste our time reminding us about the availability of the book challenge process. As Trustee McCrae said, it's illusory. A kangaroo court that has no actual interest in the public's preferences. I'm retired. There are at least a dozen activities I would rather be doing than sitting here, including enjoying library materials and books. But this deviant, corrosive trash poisoning children in our community must be stopped. So my retirement has a new purpose, and I will not stop.
Thank you. It would be helpful if we got a 1 minute warning for our 3 minutes, if that's possible. Okay, thank you. That's just something. Okay, got to recover from that last disgusting assault. It's good for you guys to hear that. I hope you also saw what went on stage this weekend, Saturday. Did you get to see that? I hope you got to see that. And I hope you got to see it too, Amy. Right? This is something that the library was participating in by having a booth there. And this is not okay, Katie. Right? Did you see what those men were doing? How sexual that was? How inviting and disgusting in front of children? Is that okay with you guys? So never again, never again. And it was because of you all and others that allowed this thing to go on that we had people come from out of state to try and protect children because you weren't doing it. As leaders of the community, you have to have a moral standard that's a lot higher than some idiots who want to pervert children because they are so out of line with their own passions and can't keep themselves under control. This is beyond belief that this is allowed. So it's going to stop. This drag queen thing is it. And the last thing is the collection HQ. We didn't bring up a problem with it because we cared about whether there were enough books that were read or not. It's a Trojan horse for Marxism. We have to wake up. Stop being so easily deluded, thinking because it's a nice website and it helps you in one way, that it's not ruining the library in another way. So we have to wake up. We have Marxism, communism, totalitarianism, whatever you want to call it, here deeply in our area, our country. And this is how it gets in. So that's the end of this. We're done. We're not going away, but this is going to end. Thank you.
Well, thank you, and I'd like to apologize to some of you beforehand because I guarantee you I'm going to offend you. I really don't care. Okay, one of the things here, some of these books that are right here in this library. First off, let me ask any of you women here, how many of y'all in here are mothers? You won't respond. I guarantee you there's some mothers in here. All right, how many of you have ever been sexually abused or accosted? Nobody? Well, there we go. There's one. Okay, good. All right, well, this is some of the materials that's in your library. There's over 600 titles in 1,200 different books that can float around. This comes directly out of the local libraries. If you don't believe me, we'll go get the books. All right, some of y'all that have been sexually abused, it's a terrible thing, whether it be a woman that's abused, whether it be a child. Here's just some of the stuff out of one of your books. This is about a father and his daughter. She laid her head on his chest. I want to see something that proves how much I love you. This is only for you, Kaylee girl. He lifted her gently, sat her down on the bed beside him. Then he opened the snaps on the fly of his flannel pajamas. He stood up stiff like a stalagmite. See how much Daddy loves you? Show me your love too. Touch it. He closed her hands around it. I know it sounds bad, but I wanted to touch it too. I don't know what it meant, only that it made Daddy happy. I wanted to make him happy too. That's right. His voice rocked in rhythm with his body. Oh yes, my Kaylee, Love me, my little flower. Bullshit. Now, who's going to tell me this book is acceptable for young minds to see this? Any one of you? How about one of you back there? One of you? No, we're just getting started here. All right, when you've got children. Oh, okay. Well, that's all right. I'll play plenty of loud enough so they'll hear me back there. These books that are geared anywhere from 13 to 14-year-old children, we can show you it's in here. They're teaching them how to eat ass and use butt plugs. Are we getting offended now? No, I'm just getting going here. I'll burn this 3 minutes up, but well, I'll hit you up anytime, anywhere. All right, you want to go into the books that has adolescent incest with sex? Should we go into that one? All right, nobody is for stopping First Amendment and impeding in any way. We don't believe in that, but there's a reason why we put childproof locks on cabinets so kids don't get in there and drink, bleach, and eat live. You know what? This type of material, sex, is to be taught to children by their parents. Okay, if you want to teach your children about this, it's all well and fine. That's on you. But in X-rated movies and stuff like it, at one time, you had to be 18 years old before you could walk into a porn shop, wherever, and buy those. All we're saying is protect the kids. There needs to be a board set up, some of these ties that go through here, and a panel. We decide and see what is bad material. I'll see you again.
Okay, that is all we have on our list of public comments. The next item on the agenda is board procedures. And our last two meetings, I did not bring my grid as we had agreed to. But I did this time, so we'll use that. And everybody speaks once before somebody speaks again, and I check it off rather than. Okay, and also I want all of you to know, I think all of you know Bob Fish, but we invited Bob Fish as he is part of our financial committee to come back and help us with, give us an outside eye on our budget as we're starting our budgeting process. He's very familiar with it, so Bob, thank you for being here. Do we want to give him back the microphone? Thank you, Lindsay.
You're welcome.
Okay, and the next item on the agenda is our Spirit Lake Library Annual Report. Carol, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes. Hi, I'm Carol Bergstein. I'm the manager of the Spirit Lake Library. The highlights of our last year, and this is our 2022 Spirit Lake Library Board Report. I am very fortunate to have a wonderful staff with me. On the left here is our substitute between Bradford and Spirit Lake. And Athol has been with the library about 3 months. Nicole has been with the library about 3 years. She's our circulation specialist, and she also helps out with adult programs. Tara is our circulation specialist. She's been with the library about a year. And Rain to the right has been with the library about 5 months. She's also a circulation specialist. On the bottom, we have Megan, who does all of our youth service programs. Very talented. She's been with the library 3 years. And Jacob, who does all our adult programs, is also very talented. Has been with the library about 9 years.
Carol, can you come a little closer?
Yes. Can we yell louder? I also like to recognize staff creativity, initiative, and innovation. Up on the upper left corner, I have Nicole, Jacob, who's in a Yup Yup costume, and Megan is with the Halloween program we did in October. In the middle there is the Christmas tree that's made out of books. I saw it on a Facebook post, and Nicole thought, she's like, that is a neat idea. We can do that. We took our friends' books and made it to the shape of a tree, put Christmas lights around it, and then we took ornaments and scotch taped them to the books. It was a great conversational piece throughout the season. And on the far right, Megan made the gingerbread house that's made out of boxes with the people, and then she took pool noodles and made them into circles so they look like lollipops. And that's what we put on our stopping light bulbs. To expand partnerships with chambers, schools, and other nonprofit businesses. I am the president of our Spirit Lake Chamber, so I help organize many events. I've also been working with the Spirit Events Committee, which they help organize like the 4th of July parade. They do lots of bingos, projects with Santa. So we've been working together to kind of make a good team within the life or within the city. And this year I talked to our Heritage Christian School, which is a private school just down the road, and they came down to the library and did a tour of the library before we opened. And then we set up little STEM kits on building things, and they really enjoyed it. We also had the 3D printer there, so they were able to make little figurines and watch them be made, and some of them purchased them. That was a huge hit. They also, one thing that we always do when the kids, whether it's the kindergartners or the Christian school come over, is our book drop. It's the staff side book drop. Jacob put some eyeballs on there, and the kids think it's great to be able to see the books come in and see the staff side of it. So we have the kids go out and feed the books in, and the group will sit inside and watch them come through. It's always a hit. We offer a variety of community gathering places and learning opportunities for adults. This year, Jacob did a pretzel making class, so they would come in and they would make the pretzel dough and made it into the shape of the pretzel, and then they took it home and made them. We also did spice mix, so combining different spices like taco seasoning, there was a Cajun mix. This was also a program that was shared throughout the library district. We also did Santa ornaments. We took a 2-inch little clay pot. We made a Mr. and a Mrs. Santa Claus. Put a string down the drain hole with a bell on one side, so that way you could hang it on your Christmas tree. We also did fork painting, which is instead of using a paintbrush, you use a fork, and we did dots on wine glasses. And we did a macrame plant painter program, which Nicole did that, and they made everybody got to take home a plant hanger and a plant inside of it. We helped prepare preschool and school-age children to be enthusiastic learners. We did story time with Mrs. Claus. This was held at our city hall in Spirit Lake. Have Katie from the left there from Rathcraft Youth Services. Miss Sherry did Santa Claus, and Nicole as an elf and a volunteer as an elf. We had about 45 kids come to that program. Great. We also did Lego Day, so the kids had different challenges with Legos to build. We also did Lego relay races, so they put Legos on a spoon and had to walk quickly from one object to the other object. We also did a Mother's Day tea story time, so we had lots of snacks and cool books about mothers. And Megan has been doing Beach Fairy, which is a program at Farragut Park teaching the kids about the wilderness. I always like to go over a little news from Spirit Lake with you guys. As you drove up Highway 41, if you notice there was just before you get into town, there's a whole bunch of trees that are taken out. No, there's not a housing complex going in there. That area is owned by Inland Paper, and they have cut down all of the diseased trees, thinned out the trees, and we planted about 25,000 to 30,000 seeds later on this year. We have a new mayor in town. His name is Jeremy Copperwaite. He's a really nice gentleman. He's really got lots of goals to accomplish this next 2 years, and he is moving forward with his goals. The moratorium is back in effect in Spirit Lake. It was lifted in about 2019-2020. They issued 300 building permits. We have, as you noticed in town, we have a new coffee shop on the right as you're coming in, and we're going to have a General Dollar outside of town, and they're building lots of houses. But it's going to be a while before the moratorium is lifted. We installed a number 5 well this last summer, but we need a lot more, and they're working on getting a number 6. Their goals is within the city is to replace a lot of the water lines and sewer lines because they're really old, and we don't have this problem at the library, but a lot of the people complain about low water flow. The Bullock Ground there, which is that big brick building next to the library, they're still working on trying to decide what to do. There's many options. They talked about making it into 6th grade for the school. They talked about making it to senior apartments, which needs lots of an elevator in it. They're going that. The city gave them an herbal renewal budget of $500,000, but then the city took some of the money back to drill the wells. So they're still working on trying to get it going, and I will keep posted on what happens. This concludes my 2022 Spirit Lake Library Board report. Are there any questions?
Questions, comments? Thank you.
I have a question. The trees that were cut down, what road did you say that was on?
On 41.
Okay. Yeah, I passed that then, and I saw that, and I was like, more houses. Interesting.
Inland papers.
Okay, nice.
In your report this month, there was the fire drill, I think, and the testing of the panic button. Have you? I'm just curious. Have you figured out your panic button problem?
Yes, we did.
Right.
You have to punch it both. It used to be there was a little light that lit up on it, and that's not anymore. But we're going to see if we can get something that lights up, just to give you that confidence that yes, the button has been pushed. Somebody is coming.
Right. Okay. So there's not a light yet.
No.
Okay.
He's trying to find
Progress.
Yeah.
If you had a wish list of things that you could do for the Spirit Lake location, Carol, is there anything that's would be on it?
I mean, as far as people library, or what do you mean by?
I mean, I guess I'm more thinking, meta level, the facility, is it suitable for the community's needs, etc.?
It is. I mean, you're looking 10 years down the road, we're going to have to become bigger. Whether we go, I know I've been told we can't go up. I wish we could. But we're going to have to figure out something. Right now, it contains really well. But yeah, 10, 20 years down the road, I'm not sure.
Following up on that comment, so there was a road bill a long time ago from us old timers. Opportunity disguised the challenge, shall we say. And that may be another factor in the solution. The elevator issue, handicap access. Sure. Yeah. But I also want to highlight the partnership now with the public school system building here. Thank you for helping make it happen. Your president of the chamber, there are a lot of things happen. Thank you. But it isn't just because. But that network, and we as the board have said, reach out to the community. I visit the staffers and they're very cooperative. So what are they doing? Kids go to our library. Here. Thanks for making that.
Carol, I have questions concerning, this was the first year that you opened up this year, programs and stuff. How was attendance? You said there were 45 kids at the Santa thing. How has attendance been at other programs, including the adult ones?
Our attendance is steadily growing.
Is it?
Since we started summer reading, we've probably doubled in our attendance.
Oh, really?
And I think a lot of it is we have so many families moving in the last 2 months. It's crazy. But yeah, it's definitely growing.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Oh, we have another question? Sorry.
I see that later on we get the tour.
Yeah, we'll get the tour.
Yeah, if there's anything there you want to look at, think about.
I love you guys looking at the inside and the painting of it. Yeah, it's so much brighter and it'll give you a good tour. Thank you.
Any other questions? Bob.
Yes.
I took a little tour before I came here.
Oh.
Because I haven't been there in a while. And your staff is so enthusiastic, I can believe it. And they also mentioned to me that they're getting a lot of people coming in. I said, well, they must all be government. I would oh no.
Yeah, it's families that we're having
That's amazing.
the last couple months. Yeah. Lots of families.
Is that it? Yes, all right.
Thank you guys.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is election of officers. I want to talk about this for a minute. We're going to do a 2-step process on this. We have officers to be elected from the 5 of us, and we'll go ahead and work on that slate. And then we have the situation with the treasurer where we have nominated the treasurer. which is allowed by Idaho code. And we also have an interesting situation, which is somebody who's, shown an interest in that as well. So we'll talk about that, but I will turn this over to Judy as part of the nominating committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Visiting with the current officers of the board, they're all willing to serve again. So I'd like to suggest we use the slate that we have currently. Chairman, Katie Blank, Vice Chair, Byron, and Clerk. I would recommend that the whole slate.
Okay, that's your comments, questions, or motion from the board.
I'll do a motion for them again today. I move that slate.
Okay, it's been moved to approve that slate. Now let's move on to discussion. No, we're not going in any order. Remember, I've got the grid. I have the grid. Okay.
Remind me what I do very little. I believe I signed a budget that gets published in the paper as the clerk. When someone runs for the election, I think the clerk can also sign that. But I don't have to sign that. So there's like maybe twice a year that a signature is required.
Madam Chair, I did my research on what a clerk does. And it says, by code, clerk shall prepare and distribute legal notices. Shall have other duties as board may prescribe. On the lookout.
Yeah, that's interesting. I have had to sign, when I was a clerk many years ago, I had to sign hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of things because we were building and, a whole bunch of, so yeah, a lot. Sorry. It is also, there are two positions that we can nominate from outside the board, and that is another position that we can nominate somebody from outside the board. Anybody else have anything they want to say about which positions can be nominated from outside the board? Treasurer and clerk.
In this case, we've had the clerk be part of the board, so I included the current slate that the board.
Any other comments? Then it's been moved to accept the slate of officers from the nominating committee. All those in favor? Aye. Are there any opposed? Okay. And we have one abstention. That would be us. Did you want to comment on that? Okay. So the next thing is our treasurer, and our treasurer. Did you happen to bring that? You didn't happen to bring your motion that you made last year, but Regina did move last year that we nominate Michelle Bealey as our treasurer for 1 year, and that makes sense because if the treasurer were on the board, then they would be being elected again for 1 year. We also have another person who wanted to be treasurer, and that is Julie Sabb. Is that? Yeah. Thank you for coming. Okay, and so Judy, did you want to address that issue?
Oh, sure. Most of all, welcome. Thank you. I think as a board, we're always interested in having folks get interested in the trend group. Foundation, definitely folks there. And Julie, you're right. I was slow getting back to what I did. And yesterday was written in March when you put together. Connected her better than I had it. But also thank you for relaying today. Awesome. Julie and I talked. We had a visit. I don't have the full information. I don't know if you sent any more than the call indicating this. The learning you probably need more information about you. But do that along the way. In the meantime, I would probably say that the current treasurer we have is fine, but we don't want to not find a way to fit you in.
Okay, so the nominating committee is saying that yes to Michelle. Is that what you're saying? Okay. All right. Are there comments or is there a motion?
I'm super confused, actually.
Okay.
People on here. Is Julie's, is it Saeed?
Oh, it's Saad. Okay, I'm sorry.
I put an accent on it. Is she going to address us today and like tell us her qualifications?
You would need to have a somewhat common writing resume or something. Letter of interest, get a phone call. Yes, we need that information.
And then does somebody need to nominate her, or is she just
Or the nominating committee has just now nominated Michelle. So, is that correct, Judy? Okay.
When we reviewed our audit last month with Tony Hackworth, thank you. One of the things that I recall commenting about was continuity and history and depth of knowledge with respect to the board's budgeting procedures and processes. Some things that have recently been put in place, just checks and balances. And my understanding is that Michelle Beasley has been doing an outstanding job as treasurer. I don't know if we could hear from our business manager to comment about that. What would you like to hear? What is your, how is our treasurer doing?
Michelle has been the most involved treasurer that I have worked with in my tenure with the library. When I first started, the treasurer would come in, open the bank statement, say, here you go, and out the door he would go. Michelle comes in, reviews the bank statements, asks questions about a variety of checks, reviews the journal entries that I have prepared in our financial file, reviews the trial balance. We'll go through and compare what has come out of the accounting system to a bank statement to make sure it's correct. Will ask me to pull various invoices, for accuracy. She's been very, very involved in making sure that we are above board.
Is she responsive?
Yes.
I feel that Michelle has served the board exceedingly well, and I would move that we appoint her as treasurer.
Okay, it's been moved to appoint Michelle Beasley as treasurer for 1 year. I'm assuming that as all are. Is there discussion on this?
I'll add a little bit more because I'm decoded clarifying what you asked. And here in the code it says the board of trustees of each library district shall appoint a qualified person who may or not be a member of the board to act as treasurer of the library district. This person shall, I'm thinking, always get bond to the library district. I got thinking, I don't know what bond is.
We do. Yes, we do.
Check mark there. Thank you. The authority is approved by the board of trustees. The amount of at least $5,000. The bond shall be paid for by the district and shall be conditioned upon faithful performance of duties. Shall be accounting for all money in the library district received by or under their control. That is saying about monitoring. Checking account treasurer shall supervise all money raised from the library district by taxation or received by the district from any other sources. Shall supervise all disbursements of funds from the district. That's what you just also, I think, described it always. Supervise and answer by order of the board of trustees. Under the direction of the board of trustees, the treasurer shall have all monies in the district filed in accordance with public depository law and other applicable state and federal laws. I think it's the board one time we had a review of where our money for accounts that were insured. So that's why I think this time, Michelle, you can treasure along the way too, and explain to us more about what you've done. We'd like to hear more information from you as you now heard these calls, maybe better than those. Show us more about you.
Well, I've been to the area that I've been in public accounting for
we may need to put that in writing as well. That would be.
I'm sort of confused myself. If it's already predetermined, I think I was under the impression that we're needing to replace the treasurer, and if the current treasurer wishes to continue and you're all in agreement that that's what you want, then I'm not trying to fight to take somebody's job away that they enjoy doing.
I have a few comments to say about that, but go ahead. Do you have more things you'd like to say, or yeah. Would you like to pull up a chair? Did you have more that you'd like to tell us about yourself?
Well, I introduced myself to Judy. I just told her, I've lived here just for the last couple of years and wanted to start getting involved in the community. And I got through tax season in April, and I was like, there's life after tax season. So I happened to be at the meeting last month. I wasn't able to stay for much of it, but I was there when it was mentioned that the treasurer appointment, up for an appointment at this meeting, and so that's why I reached out to Judy. But I'm happy to present a resume, or my credentials are easily accessed on the internet. I'm licensed in Idaho as a CPA. I've also maintained my California license as well. That's where I hail from. I graduated from Cal Poly in San Luis Obispo 20 years ago, and I've worked in public accounting for most of the last 20 years. I did work as a cost accountant for a manufacturing company for several years as well. I also have my master's in business. So now that my family's getting older, I have a little bit more time, and I'm self-employed at this point, so I have flexible schedule. Yeah, this is attractive to me.
One point, having a letter of interest in writing from you.
Right.
Something that just help us back and go along. We had any other people interested in Thank you.
I would like to address the situation. When I heard from you, I was surprised, and we didn't quite know what to do, and I felt like it was a really because we did have someone who wanted to do it, and Michelle has been doing an excellent job and has a lot of experience. But it is very rare for someone to reach out from the community to us, and we are just entering our budgeting system and our budgeting cycle, and it takes a while, even for people who know money, to understand our situation. And so I would love to invite you to participate with Bob on our financial committee. And he knows everything. And I called him and asked him if he would be willing to go over with you all of our library stuff. We always need people, especially people who will be there when we have turnovers. So I don't want you to go, because you have a lot of experience. I looked on your website. I'm from California. I have family in California. So I was like, oh, okay, California. But anyway, so if you are interested in that, and if you're interested in working with Bob and learning more about how the library operates financially, it would be great for the library. And,
Can I make a simple thing?
yes.
But along the same line, you may be able to tell, I kind of handle the financials, not the treasurer. And so what I do for a library on a volunteer basis is I'll put together this sort of information which I'll give you a copy of.
Now
and
let's
they
see it.
begin their budgeting process. And I could use a lot of help in this, particularly in presentation, because I was a commercial banker, so I worked with CPA product. It was for biotech, commercial banking, understand that challenge. This board does not understand a lot of this.
Now, wait a minute. We're not as dumb. Yeah.
So I'm 82 years old. I would like to have someone come in back.
So now, Julie, the question is, after you see all that, you still want to join us. So you have a chance to look at the board. You're offering the opportunity. But you also have the right to say, I looked at it, but she doesn't fit for it. We're open to that's true.
I'm happy to
That would be absolutely wonderful. Yeah.
So I remember last year when I remember you asking for this position if there was any other nominations. And I remember, voting to keep Michelle because I didn't know what it even was. Otherwise, I didn't even know if I could nominate myself. So what I'm confused at is why, Michelle's going to go at some point. What I mean. So, and I don't think anybody from this group is going to be the treasurer, or maybe they will want to. So somebody has to eventually come in and learn the position.
Precisely.
So I don't
That's
understand
why we
why.
just asked her improvement Bob to learn about it.
You're right. It's part of it. But really, we're doing the nominating folks with the mayor now, but we need to be doing that and backup training. All of us we're running along the way or slightly.
So the confusion may lie in the fact that, so this is the heart of what it says in the Idaho Code for what the treasurer shall supervise all monies raised for the library district by taxation or received by the district from any other sources, and shall supervise all disbursements of funds of the district by order of the Board of Trustees. That's a very big responsibility, and to have somebody come in who's had absolutely no experience with the library and put them in right this minute feels to me that that's why we have a very experienced person who wants to stay, maybe not forever.
I have 4 comments. One, I didn't hear anything at our last meeting about Judy accepting input from other trustees. I read it in the packet yesterday, and I don't remember that comment at all. Yeah, it was in the minutes, but I don't recall hearing it actually. 2, it seems fraudulent to exclude a candidate from a vote. What's the point of even voting if you have one choice? Persons ever excluded. 3, I think a CPA would be an excellent choice for this. And 4, I nominate on that.
We have a motion on the floor. So if that motion fails, then we put another motion in place.
Okay, I would like to amend the motion that we add.
Well, it's my motion.
Okay, well, I can amend it. Or will I? No, I can make a motion. Okay, I can't make the motion. I make the motion to amend the motion that's on the floor.
Okay, now we're going to, okay, go ahead.
That is to add.
Okay, it is amended, so now we vote on whether to accept the amendment or not. So it has been moved to amend the motion, and the motion is to nominate Michelle as treasurer, to amend the motion to include Julie Stott, is that it? In the motion.
I thought if I made the motion, either I accept the amendment or I don't. It's my motion. I didn't know that another board member could amend my motion. So I just point of order, I'd like to know that. And then just to comment on whether or not Judy asked for help at the last meeting. She absolutely did. I recall her saying that, and she provided feedback.
Okay, in order to figure out whether the amendment is correct, we will have to take a pause. And
Excuse me, I mean, typically, I think you can amend a motion and the board can vote, but because this motion this is nominating one single individual, there's not really a way to modify that motion, unless you're directly replacing it. So you either need to do it as two separate votes, or you need to
vote the first motion down.
right, because you're not modifying. Like you might be saying, I modified to change this policy. Okay, I want to amend to add this phrase to it, something of that effect. But this is a single nomination. So I think, and I'll double check.
Do you want this double checked? If so, we need to take some time.
Yes, I do.
Okay, that sounds good. All right, I'll keep this one. You want this one? All right, if you guys would like to take a break, you're welcome. Okay, I think we have a solution. This puts us into a section which our director found under elections, and it says that voting can be by any of several methods elected, and it sounds like ours would fall under what's called the viva voce method of election. When there is more than one nominee for a given office in a viva voce election or in an election by rising vote or by show of hands, the candidates are voted on in the order on which they were nominated. And so we can go ahead and do that. And if as soon as one of the nominees receives a majority vote, the chair declares him or her elected, and no votes are taken on the remaining nominees for that office. Does that seem like an acceptable way to do that?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense to me. So it's not an amendment. It's my motion. She just can sua sponte make another motion.
So, yes. I'm not certain that there have been two people nominated, and it says that's okay. The candidates are voted on in the order in which they were nominated. So they've been nominated. We've had two candidates nominated. We don't necessarily even need a motion to vote on.
Would you like me to withdraw my motion?
I think that's probably a good idea.
I so withdraw.
Okay, so we have two candidates that have been nominated. The first candidate that has been nominated to fill the position of treasurer is Michelle Bealey. All those in favor of having Katie Michelle as treasurer? Aye. All righty. And then the second person that's been nominated is Julie Scott. All those in favor? Aye. So that leaves me to break the tie. And I am going to vote for Michelle. And I'm going to vote for Michelle because I would like you to stay and learn. I would like you to learn about in addition, I would like you to stay and learn about, we need people who would stay and who are in financial position. But to have somebody come in who knows nothing about it this year, I think would be a disservice to the library. But I love your interest. So, all right. So Michelle has been voted in as treasurer for this year. We now have a slate of officers. We'll move forward. Thank you for your patience in the parliamentary procedure.
Thanks for coming in, Julie. Nice to kind of meet you. Madam Chair, the financial committee still the times they're on the way, right?
Yes.
So they can carry on.
Yes.
Starting now with budget.
Yes. And it would be wonderful if you could stay. This is our first meeting for the budget, and so we'll all be learning for this first budget.
Do you have a copy?
I'm doing an extra copy. We will get you a copy. Yeah, we'll get you a copy. All right. The next item on the agenda is consent agenda. And
I had a question about one of the items.
yes, you may do that right now.
In the consent agenda on page 21 of the library portion, 21 is having to do with post fall. I read in the paragraph that sadly it was also how I ended my time here at the Children's Library. It doesn't appear that you talk about why person chose to say resign or retire. So my question as a board member was, this is part of our salary issue, something that we should be aware of, or is it something else personal that we don't need to know about?
This individual did not give much of a reason for why they resigned. So they did have another position they were taking, but they had been here for 11 years. But it was preschool teacher, so I don't think this individual was full time. I don't think it was salary per se. She just felt like she had kind of done what she wanted to do here and was ready to go into preschool teaching.
Okay, so that was, we do an exit interview with folks, and
Yes.
give them the opportunity to share with us.
Right, but it did not have to do with salary of that nature.
At least in this non-primary consideration. No, thank you. Well, she did a good job, and she said she's sad. Thank you.
Will she agree to reprise her role as Mrs. Claus?
Oh, dear.
I know, we lost our Mrs. Claus.
I had a couple changes to the regular meeting minutes from May 19th.
Oh, no, we're not going in order. What I'm doing is saving and using the grid. Okay.
Yeah, I just figured I'd keep talking since I started talking, so that's why I don't have to see my time yet, right? So on the back, page 2, the first bullet point under parliamentary procedures, each member will have an opportunity to speak once before they speak a second time. There's just an extra A. And on that same page, under the Rathdrum Library Annual Report, the bullet point regarding Meyer noted her concern regarding staff turnover. The next part doesn't make sense. There's either a word missing or something. Did you catch that, Judy? Meyer noted her concern regarding staff turnover and should be thought of. Which should be thought of, maybe? Anyway,
What did you want to say instead?
well, that's the thing. I just felt like maybe it was missing something regarding staff turnover, which should be thought of as the next budget.
I think it was, and salary should be thought of. So I think we're missing the word salaries there.
Perfect. That's what I thought. It just seemed like there was a word missing. And that was it. And I will go ahead and move that we approve the consent agenda with those changes.
Okay, it's been moved to approve the consent agenda with those changes. Further discussion.
Yes. Okay, so on the CIN, and I don't know.
CIN what? CIN financial report. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know if this is, Janelle, do you read services? Because I always confuse with the CIN. Okay, so I just have a question on the line 24, the books and materials.
E-books and materials?
Yeah, sorry, e-books and materials. Line 24. Why it's 91,000. And I apologize if you've already answered this question.
No, that's all right. So we are contractually obligated with overdrive for
$10,000 a year to be a member of Overdrive and $10,000 a year in content.
I mean, we buy 10,000.
Yes, you're contractually obligated to do that. So if you look at line 17 and 18, that's where those two $10,000 are. The reason that you see more in the actual year-to-date for 18 and more in the actual year-to-date for line 24 is because that is additional contributions or donations that are made beyond the contract. So we only budget for the contract.
Okay, so even though on 24 it says 303% expenditure, it really isn't because that money came in.
It is offset by the contributions and donations.
Okay.
And part of beyond what is contributions and donations is there's $12,000 from every member's dues that is contributed. So part of $12,000 out of lines 1 through 16, 12,000 of that goes towards EVOs.
Thank you. And then I had a couple, I suppose they're probably comments, not the fact that they were. Okay. Just something on the library board reports. On page 16, I believe the second full paragraph down right above the pictures. And I'm not sure who wrote that. Kate, I'm not sure, but it's interesting that the most meaningful. She's talking about the staff day, and she's talking about the speaker, and she says the most meaningful one being of what the speaker said. The opposite of depression is not happiness; it is purpose. And I remember clearly when she said that because I was like, wow, that is absolutely amazing. And I think it would be cool, and it's probably not my place to say it, but I think it would be cool if that was somehow incorporated into the library signage or something, because it really goes along with education and information. And then also on page 11, the crocheted bookworms that have been placed around in, I think this is Hayden. I think that was just an amazing idea. So there's some good vibes I wanted to send out.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Yes, I have a question. The library board also makes first full paragraph underneath the pictures. Says that the Apple Elementary School bids for issued library cards. So is that their parents have signed a waiver or consent one?
We can double check. Typically what we do when school groups come in is we've given them library card applications ahead of time that the parents have signed. So when they come down, then they are presenting the signed application. So that's been our standard practice with school trips, but we can double check. So we still have the parents sign, but they're not there in person.
Sure. Okay, and then I had a further question on that. Are the parents informed that there may be objectionable materials to their family standards and whether they can give informed consent?
There's a general statement that they're responsible for the materials that their children's check out, but the way it's phrased, it's both the financial obligation in case the items went missing, but also in terms of understanding what their children's check out.
Can I comment? So in this case, children have come to the library, hopefully either because the family signed the form or they're going to take it home and get it signed, check out books. But this time, the folks may not know ahead of time the child's been gone. They could be going to the library before the parents had a chance to see that they can.
I think what I'm saying is typically, and this is where I'll have to double check, is we've given them the library card application ahead of time and the child has taken it home. So the parents do have a heads up in some cases. So they would have had a chance if they were concerned about library materials to look at our library catalog, look at the materials that are available. So that's, again, we'd have to find out what they did in this particular class situation, but that's been our typical experience with class field trips.
I think that's what we're headed for, is one of parents know, and I did field trip parents sometimes said, no, I don't want my child to go on that field trip. Somewhere else. So their parents said that out. Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, it's been moved to accept the consent agenda with changes suggested. All those in favor? Aye. All righty. The next item on the agenda, we added, it's good we added it. We added a CIN overview because we got panicked about the audit. And the first person that I would like to address this issue is, it would have been good if Janelle would have been there, but no, she was out in the rain camping. So if you would like to address our panic.
It was my birthday weekend. My apologies. So when I got back, I was helping edit the minutes from that meeting and had seen where Tony had talked about the decline, drawing down the resources for CIN that CIN members may consider increasing their fees. That's not necessarily the case. This was a purposeful motion from the directors from CIN that after years of having some cost savings and some lines not fully spent, they had accrued a significant carry forward that they don't need. And so it was a purposeful drawdown of those monies to get back in line. They really don't need carry forward like we do. Fees are based on all of the expenses. I didn't think to bring how that's divided out, but all the expense lines are distributed to all of the member libraries, and that is what makes up their dues. So it's not that, there's fees that need to be increased. They're increased if we have more expenses automatically. So this was a purposeful motion on behalf of CIN to draw down their carry forward.
Thank you. Amy, is there anything that you'd like to go over concerning CIN to help everybody completely understand CIN?
So I think originally when we put this on, I think the question had been raised at the audit discussion about kind of the specific issue, but then it was brought up, well, maybe we need to just talk in general about how CIN is set up. So Janelle had the back history because that was a decision made prior year kind of before I came. So I didn't have that historical knowledge in terms of drawing down the position. That makes a lot of sense. So we have essentially, it's a little bit different. They're not bylaws because we are what's considered a joint powers agreement because we involve libraries from two different states. And so this is kind of a cross-state consortium. And so we have what's called an operating agreement. And in that operating agreement, it kind of talks about how CIN is organized and how we're set up. And so the consortium is made up of voting members. I don't have the exact, the operating agreement does not have the number of libraries, but I think we're up to like 23. I could probably look at the minutes. So there's 22, 23 libraries, and I'm sure you may all be familiar of public and school libraries that make up CIN. The voting block is made up of the directors of those 22 or 23 libraries, and the directors essentially do represent, it does state in the operating agreement that the directors are essentially a proxy vote for the governing boards of each library. So that's where if we were making drastic changes, I'm there to vote, and a lot of it's operational. So we're voting, sometimes it's, are we going to renew this database or not this database, or are we going to approve the financial statements or not? But if we were going to do something like, if it was necessary to, if there was additional expenses added or we were going to change the structure, then that's certainly where we would come back. Each library needs to go back to their board, bring that up for discussion. And what also makes it unique is that we do have some city entities. They don't just have to go back to their boards per se, but they actually have to go back to their city treasurer because then they have fiscal guidelines that they have to follow. Separate. So it is voting by directors, but in proxy for the governing board. But it is by majority, so we do have to have a majority vote. Even though we are the fiscal agent and we are the largest library in the consortium, we still just get one vote. So we're just one out of the 22, 23. So even if something, but if 20 libraries wanted to do something different and we weren't necessarily in agreement, we would either then decide is it worth making a fuss or doing something different. But we are, so that is, I guess I've now alluded to then the other role we play is as fiscal agent, meaning that our bank, we hold the bank account and now does the accounting for CIN. We work with the auditor who audits both entities at the same time. If there's any questions about CIN?
I have one thing I'd like to say. Even though I was there, absolutely there, and helped do this, would you like to state the purpose of CIN?
So as a consortium, we're able to get, I think there's a couple of reasons, but as a consortium, we're able to work on our ILS, which is our integrated library system, otherwise known as the catalog. So by sharing a catalog, we're able to save a significant amount of money. So we're saving a significant amount of taxpayer money by being part of the consortium, but also we're able to share in materials. And so by sharing that catalog, then we're able to share in materials that are at the Fort Wayne Library or at Liberty Lake or at Lake Ponderay, West Bonner County. So some of the smaller library systems get access to much larger collections, and then the large libraries still can accentuate. So we may not always need to buy everything if Coeur d'Alene owns it, because if there's a certain amount of demand and that demand's being met by a member of the consortium, then maybe we focus on buying things that are other things our members might be interested in. So I think there's a number of benefits, but primarily in kind of being a cost sharing entity, so we can also negotiate. Too, when we go to renew our contracts, then we're 23 libraries strong. Again, not sure about that number, but when we negotiate our contract with the vendors, and it's both with our catalog system, but then also we have 2 or 3 databases as well as Overdrive that we share as well.
Questions?
Just wanted to add in as well. They get a long time. It was an effort, I think, by our large library to become a source of buying power that the libraries never had. We're already the largest one around, but the largest third in the state, so they're going to get done. So it was a little bit of, the collaboration partnership with Whitestone was one of the best ways to buy libraries. But in Northern Idaho and Eastern Washington, don't tend to do Montana, do we? But we could. Those are all. So, simple key, and back then, Michelle advocated for that to happen. And we also went through this. Since we're the Fountain Bureau, we want to encourage the bookkeeping part as well. Now, let's keep track of that. Followed by, we got the staff to do it. And I think it's a responsibility we have to make things done well. Thanks to Mel, who's now back from being in the rain. It's a comfort because what our audit control highlighted was a downward trend. But it's now, for the rational reason, it would have continued to go down more. And you see that no need to spend money.
We are approaching the tail end. I mean, we've made it a slow drawdown. We didn't want to make it a big drastic occurrence. So it's been, the last several years you've seen a line item on the income statement using cash on hand of around $5,000. So we're getting down towards the tail end. We're going to use a little bit more in the next budget year, but we'll relook at it when we get ready to do the FY24 budget.
Okay.
Katie,
Yes.
could I suggest you let us go ahead and, or let me get my report before we take a break so we can
Okay. All right. That sounds good. But let's let me finish with the CIN. If we're close to that, we can move the budget discussion. Is that what you're asking? Can move the budget discussion? All right. Any more questions or information wanted on the CIN? No? Okay. All right. It's been requested. How do board members feel about moving our budget discussion right now? Okay. All right. Then we'll do that. Then the first, do you want Amy to go first, or do you want to go first now? Okay.
I should kind of give some context. This is the first draft that everybody's seen. So
yeah, that's what I think.
Okay.
Go ahead. Yes, we need the purple sheets.
So I'll talk just briefly, and then I'll let Bob share his analysis that he does. So you do have our first draft in front of you. So this is, again, our fiscal year 23 budget. Bringing forward the first draft, a couple of things I want to highlight in revenue. Or actually, before I do that, we are proposing two scenarios. We have started with a 0% budget with growth only. And that's typically, I think the last couple of years, that's where the boards wanted us to start. And then if we had additional needs, then we could look at other scenarios. So that's where we started as we were compiling all of the budget requirements and budget needs and wants, is we did start with the 0%. And we were able to do quite a bit of what we wanted, but there were a couple of things, particularly facility-wise, that if we took the 1%, we could do that. So just wanted to kind of clarify why you have the two scenarios. We do have some areas that we may have some additional revenue in, and that's why they're highlighted in yellow, but there's no dollar amount given. That's line item 7. We have a couple of urban renewal districts that will close this year, and there's one in Post Falls, and then there's one that covers a few different areas in the county. And so typically when they close, a number of things can happen. There can be a bit of money refunded back to each taxing entity, or sometimes they've just completely closed out the urban renewal district and there's no money left. So we're still waiting to see what the estimates are. Sometimes we've gotten, I believe, anywhere from 0 to 60,000 renewal districts close. So that could be some additional income. That we have asked the county for estimates, and they're still working on it. And so we do hope with our second draft, budget draft, which will probably be in July, is that we would have some actual estimates there. But we've left that blank for now because we didn't even want, that's a big range, and we didn't even want to guesstimate what that would be. So that's kind of.
Let me ask one question.
Sure.
The only thing I got was this document right here. Recognize this.
I think yours is just portraits and ours is landscape, but I think it's the same thing.
Okay, but you said there were two options. Okay, so I wonder which option this is.
I think there's still two columns on your spreadsheet.
Because you didn't do it landscape portrait. They may have cut off.
This looks like
So it may have cut off when it cut off.
Yeah. So you don't have the whole kit.
I think it was in the electronic file, Bob, but not.
This doesn't bother me very much because I've got 0%.
Okay.
And the other one only shows 1%. Which I'm surprised. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, I think that's where we're starting. We were starting with, as we gathered our budget wants and needs, we were starting with the 0%, we just go up versus starting. And I'm not saying I was in here, but I think a few years ago it was a little more standard to start at 3% and work backwards. So we're working forwards.
We switched to doing that. This is the way I think we decided. We certainly did it last year. I think the year before, it may have been.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
On this side of here, where it says with reallocated E-rate discount, is that that pesky little thing, rebate? And are you counting it that we are getting it? So right here. The very top title.
This is the very first year we have been approved for E-read this early. We were approved in the first wave.
Okay, excellent.
So I was floored.
Wow, excellent.
I'm sure that was for doing good job.
I'm glad I was sitting down.
Oh my gosh, that's great.
So we did not, so already we had what will be the out of pocket, so to speak, for the library. We do not have the estimates of what E-rate would be if we didn't get it. This is what we'll spend even with E-rate. So that's already factored in, and we didn't have, because last time we had to change it on like draft 4 or something.
And then, yeah, exactly. And there was a lot of back and forth on that. Also, just for my own brain, where it says percent of revenue, it says that for the columns on the next couple of pages too. Is that supposed to be expenditures? Right here.
It was asked a couple of years ago that everything be a percent of revenue. So even your expenditures are a percent of total revenue.
Okay, and that's standard. Is it? Yeah.
So that was kind of, just wanted to give you the overview. Obviously, I think at some point we're going to go, I don't think we're going to go line by line. I know we did that last year. That's because many of us were brand new to the budget, but we were going to go section by section. But before we get started with that, I was going to, Bob, you're welcome to share what you have. And then probably where I would start is with the second handout you have, which is about salaries, and explain a little bit about that. But Bob, do you want to go ahead and talk first?
Yeah, let me give you. Now this is a mirror image almost of what you got from Amy, but there's one big difference, and that's in that area called carry forward, which these sheets, our budget is how much got in from several sources, major sources that are continuous, like we get money every year, 11 adding up to a year from our tax income, donations, we have sales tax. They're all income sources. The same way with the expenses, things we write a check for, not something from the balance sheet. And that brings me up to what I want to explain. The only difference is, if you look at the worksheet, we have carry forward designated for income, and we have funds from CARP for capital project.
Okay, what lines? We can be slow. Okay, I see 18 and 19. Is that what you're talking about? Yeah. Okay.
Now, those are balance sheet items, and they have nothing to do with actually performing a budget. So what you have from me, 8 by 11 sheets, is exactly what you have here for 0%, with the absence of 18 and 19, as I just said. So that causes, if you turn to the back of the sheet that I presented to you, it shows us a negative of $225,000. And of course, that includes the capital expenditures and carry forward down at the bottom there, which basically kind of offset
Is this what is this what we were doing before?
Hmm.
Okay, so why do we show a
your line, capital expenditures and carry forward, which are line 81 and 82. That's basically the way I understand it, at least, a way that we fund those areas each year and make it as part of our budget. Is that pretty much correct?
So line 81 capital, it can include capital from all sorts of income. So it can include capital that comes from our current year property tax, but it could also be capital from
You're talking about line 81
carry forward.
and 82, right?
Yes. So in this, because if you look back at lines 18 and 19, those two items make up the capital budget on line.
Well, it's just improper to have that on the income side, that 18 and 19 are not appropriate on our budgeting process.
So is this what we used to do and we fought over changing and now we're back to doing what we used to do?
I think so.
Okay. So what we're doing, what happens when we do that is that we're not as clear as how we spend our money.
Well, what we can do, because we did talk about this, so one thing we are doing and that we need to be very clear about is we're going to withdraw from our car fund $185,000. So that's going to be offset in our capital by we're going to spend $185,000. So we need to show somewhere where that transfer from car comes from, because that's a bunch of right.
It's a balance sheet transaction. It's like if you have over the years saved $500,000 that you didn't need, so you put it in the savings account. It's your money, and you need to buy a new car, so you buy a new car for $100,000. It doesn't come out of your income. You take your savings account. Your savings account goes from 500 to 400, and there's an animalistic automobile for $100,000. It has nothing to do with your income statement. Yes. And that's the reason I'm making the statement that we need to go in on 18 or 19, because there's some balance sheet items. Now, you can do all the things you want to do, but it doesn't have anything to do with our income expenses.
This isn't, a typical profit and loss statement. It is
On a cash basis.
It is, but it is what we use as a it's what we use to take a look at our budget each month. We fought hard to make it clearer, and so I would really like to see what we could do to make it clear. We've had this problem before, and
that's the reason I was interested in having this is solved. I think she could help me explain this more clearly.
But my question is not okay. I get what you're saying, but what I want to know is how can we put it on a statement like this so that it's clearer, because we understand this is not going to be a perfect accounting statement. It's the tool that we use, but how can we do it so that we can indicate on this what's happening here? And we don't have to answer this right now, but it is of concern to me because this is how we got into the board not understanding that the budget was $300,000 in the red, and we got there by doing this. And so I don't know how we clear before.
I think the way we would end up doing it is at the end of this statement having an ending balance, and then bring in the income from the previous year, which is added to the ending balance of the last year, coming up with a new balance. It's can be on the same statement. It's outside or at the end of the actual
Did we used
cash
to do that?
income
I
statement.
thought that we used to do that.
You want me to repeat it, is that what you said?
No, I said, did we not used to do that? I thought we did.
I think we did last year. I remember, I only got this information like 2 days ago, putting this together, just putting it together so I could present it. About all I could do.
Bob, can I ask you a question? Just before we leave this section, since you brought up lines 81 and 82, could you help me understand why we would take money from CARB only to put money back into CARB? I don't understand that. Okay.
I was thinking when I saw this, they had similar amounts at the top, but I think that's a way of kind of enforcing on us that we're making a commitment. Put this much into CARB, take care of problems that sooner or later will lack solution in our real estate owners.
Well, and you're not suggesting that we don't do that. What you're suggesting is how we show it.
And have it. That's the discussion. Should this go? We're making a large increase this year in salaries and expenses. Did you hear that? That's what is being suggested. So dramatic. Remember, I've pointed this out several times. I said that for every percent, that's like $55,000. When something goes up 1%, it's $55,000. You can see on this going from the year ending 22 to 23, it goes from round figures 58 to 64. That's a real huge increase in salaries and benefits. So is that enough? Is it too much? But that's the big deal. It's something we have to be really careful about. Other than that, if you review these line items using those percentages, kind of go across the page, you won't see a lot of change in most of these areas. Our collection percentages stay pretty stable. And the utilities and repair and maintenance is fairly stable, if not slightly, but you expect that. It's just we're recognizing the fact that we are coming into a period always are going to need to make some changes like all of us in our personal life. But this is just a starting piece, and it gives us something to talk about. And we can discuss how we can show what you're concerned about. And it should be shown. I just didn't have time to put some thought into it. I wasn't sure I had the right information to do a good job of it. But this is how it should look, basically. We can, you can discuss where you want to make increases, and so forth.
Can I ask you another question, Bob? I know I've already spoken once, so I thank you because your worksheet makes, I understand what you're trying to bring to our attention. And I remember, I don't remember which budget cycle it was, but we debated as a board quite a bit as to what is an appropriate percentage of the budget that's allocated towards salary and benefits. And do you remember what the percentage was that you at that time recommended that the district attempt to adhere to?
The maximum amount that we discussed was 63%. Which at the time was been held at pretty close to 60% for many, many years. That's what the board is all about. You got to recognize what's going on in the community. And respond to the whip into this once before. People are crazy. And the part that respond very quickly. This leaves you, if you were to just stick with this, with a $225,000 deficit, which of course is largely made up with tax increase. But there's several areas that you
But wouldn't that be made up with the CART fund if we moved CART? Yeah, because that might be.
Because of COVID, we all know that our cash balances went up dramatically because getting paid for services that we weren't offering children's and adult services and so forth. So I would think, I haven't been around for a year, but I would think our cash balances are pretty good. So that's something to review. And if they are pretty solid, it's just the lead or greatly reduced. So those what is maybe what it is. What you think is more appropriate.
Because I think we're looking at some facility improvements. Yeah. Okay, I think Amy is ready to talk to us. It's a perfect segue for salary.
Okay. Yes, and a couple of things. So we can talk more, if we should be showing a little bit differently. But just to clarify too, on the money coming from CARF, it will come into our account, so it's not directly a savings account. From CARF goes directly like pay for the Hayden roof. So because it comes into our account, we wanted to show that it's not necessarily income, but it is money coming in that then goes out. But we can certainly move it down low, but we wanted to be very clear that a large capital project is happening this year. And that large capital project is $185,000 for the Hayden roof, which we've been saving for a number of years and are ready to actually do it. So that big capital expense that we would transfer out of CARF would be for the Hayden roof. Right now, the quote for it is $170,000. That's already $30,000 more than the quote was 3 months ago, and then $20,000 more than the quote was 5 months before that. So it just keeps increasing. So that was the big capital project that we were going to take money out of. So line 19 was that $185,000 coming out of CARF, and then it's reflected as an expense in line 81. It has so $185,000 of the $225,000 is the Hayden.
What was the second line number?
82.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So basically, line 19 is then reflected in line 82 as an expense. And then we can certainly talk more about where on the balance sheet that makes more sense if it should not under income. But yeah, so on salaries, one thing I did want to say about, because I think this is really useful, Bob, thank you very much for that. One thing that the 2023 column is comparing to is actuals. So when you look at the 64% of salaries in our proposed budget, and in fiscal year 2022 is 57%. So that's on Bob's spreadsheet. Our actual budget, though, we had budgeted at 63%. We're just coming in well under budget this year for salaries. So does that make sense? So even this last year, we were at 63% of budgeted salaries. Actually, let me double check that number. Yeah, 63.4% is where we were, but we're estimating we've had a few vacant positions that have been vacant for quite a bit of time. Even though we budget that a little bit, we never know how long, so we're coming in under budget on salaries. So compared to actuals, it is quite a bit higher, but compared to what we budgeted this year. So looking at the salaries spreadsheet, what you have in front of you is kind of our layout of kind of the approved salary range for each of our positions, the number of staff in each position, and then that current salary total. This actually is the exact same as what was in the 2022 budget. And the reason for that, sometimes we come in with variations. Either we're proposing that to change the starting salary in some position levels, or that we've added some additional positions. But we don't know right now because we are undergoing the compensation study. And so what we have done instead, if you look at the second page of the salaries, is you will see right at the top is that we have the proposed budget as it currently is for salaries, which is that 2.7 or 2,738,928. And then what we're putting in right now is an estimated market corrections of 135,000. Typically each year with just a regular merit increase of 2 to 3%, that typically, I think, raises our salary maybe anywhere from 60 to 80,000. So we are asking a little bit more than that average of 2 to 3% because we know that we have a few positions that are super out of market. And so we know that in the compensation study, there'll be some recommendations made. Those recommendations will come to the board and we'll have essentially a report from the compensation study. But then what we will need to do is take those recommendations and essentially on page 1, create a new salary chart that we'll propose to the board and need the board's approval for. And since we don't yet know which positions are out of market, we haven't put those estimates in each line item. Instead, we put more a lump sum estimate for that $135,000. Now, what that will take into account is not just the market corrections, but there'll maybe some positions that are totally on par, and they'll then what we budgeted is they'll get 2% merit increase if they had an appropriate performance evaluation. But again, so this amount that you're seeing of the $135,000 is kind of the increase at this time. At the very bottom of page 2 on the salaries, we have put in a few potential changes to some hours for positions. That is all, again, dependent on the market corrections needed. Just to kind of share with you all, my priority, but this will again be board approval, is if they come back and it really takes $150,000 to get our salaries up to market, and that means that we're not going to increase some of these hours, I would choose not to increase those hours and pay the current staff better rather than hire another part-time position that's underpaid. If that makes any sense. So we have put these in here as possible position changes, but that again will depend. So this is going to evolve as we bring future drafts to you and as we have data from the actual compensation consultants.
Can I ask a question, Amy, about the compensation study? I think this board has been interested in a analysis as to whether we are at the proper ratio of full-time versus part-time staff. Is that part of it?
They will look at some of that and they'll probably have some recommendations, but it won't necessarily be like you need 20 more. It'll probably say you're quite out of line. We would suggest increasing full-time positions as you are able. At least in prior market studies I've gone through, they have looked at that, but it's been more of this general recommendation versus, and they could come back and say in these 3 departments you should have this many more full-time positions. That they certainly can do that, but it will be more of a general recommendation. But they are looking at our benefits, our hours, and the salary itself.
Is that something you're looking at as far as the distribution of employees?
Yes. So even if it comes back as more of a general recommendation, that's already been our goal. I mean, that's something this last year, I think I mentioned kind of in the staff day presentation, we were able to create 3 full-time positions. That was with merging some positions and with a couple budget asks in the last budget cycle in terms of just adding a few more hours and merging a couple positions. So we are working towards that, but it's kind of like we have a few issues going on, and that we have some positions that are probably very underpaid. We also have far too many part-time versus full-time positions. And so we're going to have to fix some, but we're also going to have to fix it as the budget allows. And so since we're going through a compensation study, we may be like, okay, we need to improve salaries, and then we're going to continue just as we've done, increasing more full-time positions. But it is going to have to be incremental because we would need at least a 3% or more, and I'm not sure that would fly, right? I mean, we want to see what the consultants come back with, but it's going to probably take multi-years to fix.
I'm not to monopolize, but the column that says approved wage range, some of those are usually disparate, right? And it's, I don't know if that's
that's typical. I've always kind of struggled with that because I feel like if it's the board's responsibility to classify, not necessarily classify, but approve job descriptions and approve wage, and I understand that operationally you need discretion, make adjustments, or right, if you're making a new hire, they're going to be on the low end. If you've had somebody here a long time, they're probably going to be on the high end. But is it typical for it to be that huge of a gap?
We definitely have some lines where the range is much larger than I've seen before. So that's certainly that's why we didn't change anything. This is the exact salary schedule that was in last year's budget. So we haven't changed anything here. But before we would implement anything prior to October 1, we would come back to the board with a brand new one of these that may not just have minimums that have been increased, but may have maximums that have decreased. If that makes any sense. Because we have some ranges that are large and we have other ranges that are narrow. And that's the consultant will definitely be looking at.
I have a question regarding that same thing. So that range, is it because in, like, say, the first category, you have somebody in that position making 1196 and you also have one making 1772? Is that how you came up with these ranges?
So, and I actually did come up, these ranges have kind of existed.
Well, that's
yes. So I think the 1196 is kind of that beginning salary. So somebody just starting as a circulation assistant, they would start at 1196. That's kind of set. That's the starting range. But typically, budget dependent, each year there's some level of merit increase. So over time, if you've had somebody in a position for 8 to 10 years, they maybe have had a few increases. Usually a range is saying, this is typically what you're going to have in your organization. Is now occasionally, if you have people with a lot of longevity, they are going to max out at something. I think though sometimes what perhaps had been done in the past is that upper range would just increase as people hit the top versus coming up with a solution for what happens when somebody does hit the max. Because, for some positions, there is a logical max, but again, that's where the consultants will help us figure out what's an appropriate range, because we don't just want to have a really narrow, like $2, because you might max out in 4 years, and then what's the incentive for people kind of grow library over time? But you also don't want to necessarily be some entry level positions. If they stay a long time, are also making a significant amount more than higher skilled positions as well. So it is a balance also. But we'll certainly be looking at that. And so, usually, typically a range, and I don't even know that but maybe for something, these first couple aren't necessarily way out of line. They're typically maybe $6 to $8 for those entry level positions. But we have some that are like $15 to $20 ranges, and that might be high. But again, if they're higher level positions, a percent increase is going to already be that much. So I don't know if that fully answers your question.
Yeah, it's kind of good enough now.
The logical range doesn't be in that position.
Other question? I have a question. On this budget sheet that we've got here with the 1% and the 2%, do the total salaries and benefits columns include the, what do you call it, the anticipated market direction?
Yes, they do. So that it already includes that basically salary line 21, 22 are where, so salary line 21 would have the 135,000.
Okay, so what you're saying is the salary, the line 27 for each one of those is 61%, or 61.89, and then 61.39. Is that correct?
It is, but it's a percentage of the income up above, which, as Bob stated, might include a couple of categories that if we took those out, the salary range might be closer to 64%.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
Spreadsheet.
Okay.
So if we were to not reflect the money coming out of CARD or carry carry forward, then that does raise that percentage. And we were just going by in terms of that transfer from CARF, that typically has actually been in that upper area, but we can decide certainly, like I said, that's a discussion we can have. That should be reflected on the balance sheet, not on the income.
Because it just suddenly made sense to me.
Okay.
Oh, okay, I get it.
Okay, all right. So the percentages may increase, but if we change the 18 and 19,
And I know we can continue to talk. At some point, I know we need to take a tour of Spirit Lake too, so we can also, if you wanted to do that and then come back to the budget, but I'm just throwing it out there.
how many other questions do we have today on the budget? Is that okay? Yeah. All right. Then what we can do is we can take a tour, stop and take a tour. If we don't have any more, we'll come back and step it again. I would like to look at this to make sure that we're not getting into a situation where we were so unclear as to that we did not understand as a board that our budget was $300,000 in the hole. So I just want to make sure that we do that. So we'll take a look at it. Bob was the whistleblower on that before, and he has resumed his role. So, okay. Is there any? So if there's no other questions, then we will leave it until next month. And what we'll do is take. No, you don't have to stay for the rest of the meeting. Thank you very much for being the whistleblower again.
We were in a slow this time, though. Before it was a lot more work for you.
Wait a second, before the board leaves, we want to take a quick break, and then we want to go over to our tour. Yeah. I know it does. All right, so the next item on the agenda is strategic planning update. Oh, sorry, yes.
You need to go back and accept the district financials.
Oh, thank you very much. All right. You never did that. Yes, let's go back to the financial statements for the library. I think I just totally skipped them.
Well, Bob jumped in.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
So we skipped a bunch.
That's right. Thank you very much. Well, it's not a blame. It's an actual fact. We skipped. All right. So thank you all for reminding me and helping me. I was really going to be better today, but I lost my life. Bob interrupted. So, or my mind. So we're now back up at the Community Library Network financial statements for the month of May. And I would entertain a motion, then we can have a discussion. I move that we pass the Community Library Network financial statement for the month of May. Okay, how about if I move that we approve the financial statement? I was like, well, I did it right. Well, maybe everybody doesn't want to pass it. Okay, I move that we approve the Library Network financial statements May 2022. Yeah, okay, that sounds good. And I always add the S on it because on the first page is our version of a financial of an income statement, but the second page is a balance sheet. So we actually are looking at two different statements. All right, it's been moved to accept the income, the financial statements ending May 31, 2022. Discussion, questions, concern.
Well, you can make up time with it. It's a tiny amount, but I want to understand it. Page 3, the bank service charge. Yeah. So it's the budget.
We don't typically get stop payments, and I had several staff that lost checks. And I had several vendors that never got it in the mail. And so rather than risk it, hitting the bank at some other time by some other person, I issue stop payments, and they are $30 a pop. Yeah.
30 or 35?
30.
So where is that? It's 3.
What line item?
61.
Oh. And
Bank service.
oh. Okay. I actually probably the most important job that we do is manage the money. So it doesn't seem as if any question is too small. Okay. Anything else? If not, then it's been moved to accept the financial statements for the month ending for the Community Library Network for the month ending May 31, 2022. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay.
Can I ask one question?
Yes.
Nothing to do with the. Janelle, so are most employees' paychecks sent by mail or are they handed?
Most employees' paychecks are sent electronically. These were reimbursements for mileage, or they had to make a purchase at a store that we don't have an account at, so we reimburse them. And I don't do employee reimbursements electronically.
Okay.
One of the calls, page 4, where you're storing rental. 23% increase. And then starting in March. And that's when we keep it right on the top. Inside.
I can't hear you.
Look at the story. Page 4.
Yeah.
Okay. Page 4, top of the line, storage rental, 23% rate increase. Can we consolidate or shrink the storage inside or change somebody?
We can look at that. We only have 2 units right now. One is full of various facilities needs that does not need to be climate controlled. And the other one is climate controlled for our public records that we must retain.
That would cost more.
Yes.
And it costs a lot to move.
We still on the financial report discussion. Are we good? Okay, let's move on to circulation statistics.
So if you didn't already see it, you did not have the circulation statistics in your packet, but was sitting on the table when you came. We had a couple of statistics that were coming in late, so that did not make it in your packet. So if you haven't seen them yet, they were on your table. Not much remarkable. I mean, May was pretty busy. Typically, we see a little bit. Winter's busy. April and May get a little quieter, and then things really pick up in summer. But May was still really pretty good overall. As we say, usually when bad weather, lots of people come to the library. When it's really good weather, we don't. So actually, as it's been cloudy and rainy for 6 months.
Any questions or anything on discussion point on the circulation statistics? Okay, then director's report.
Actually, I don't know that I have too much to share beyond what was in the written report. We'll be talking about the strategic plan here in just a second. In terms of just a little bit more about the compensation study, we're having a kickoff meeting with the consultants next week. They'll be meeting with each of our managers as well as our admin team to understand more about our jobs. We've sent them a ton of data that Janelle's helped to compile. And so they're really starting the beginning process. And so we're excited about that, but that's about where we are with that. Otherwise, we have to talk about this.
Okay, well then we can jump right in. Oh, does Does anybody have any questions or concerns? Or we can jump right into the strategic planning update then.
Okay, so on the strategic plan, there is actually another handout that was on the table, and that was the community survey. So that is the summary of the community survey. And so just as with the executive summary of the staff survey, all of this data will be used to help create the draft of the strategic plan. So we had, I know many of you, or actually I think all of you dropped in at least, to the retreat that we had at the end of May. So again, we had invited about 90 community members, and I think we had about 25 to 27 that were able to make it. So it was a really engaged group. We we worked through a variety of different questions and ideas. So they'll be taking that data in addition to the staff survey and the community survey. They also were doing several individual interviews with a few different community leaders. And so there was about 10 to 12 interviews by phone that the consultants were also doing as well. And so they'll be compiling all of that. Basically here the month of June, what they're doing now is we've done now all the data gathering. So now they're actually writing. So that's what they're busy doing right now. And the idea is that in July, and we'll be talking more about this, but in July, at our board meeting, they'll be presenting the draft of the plan. And then the board can approve the plan, or we can discuss and make modifications and so forth. But that's kind of where we're headed at this point. Just a couple of things on the.
Before you leave our meeting in comparison.
We're going to talk about that.
When we get to set special meeting.
Actually, what I'm going to do when we finish here is that.
So what I just wanted to highlight a couple of things, or actually really just one thing. On the community survey overview, we got a fairly decent response. I think when we were at the community retreat, at that point we only had about 480 respondents, but we did get another 200 in that last week and a half. It was really shared really widely. It was shared widely on social media, not just by us. A number of groups picked it up and shared it widely. And then a few of our community partners shared it. So 700 was not quite 2%. Their goal was somewhere between 1% to 2%. So I think we were at the 1.7, 1.8% of households that responded. And so in the summary, it kind of breaks down a little bit of the demographics, but then some of the key takeaways. And I mean, the key takeaways, these will be things that may show up in our goals, but again, there's lots of data that's being gathered as well. But you can see some of the themes that came out of the community survey. So I think we're pleased that when all was said and done, we ended up with even more survey respondents. I mean, always, I would have loved 1,000 at least, but I'll take 700. So any questions about the strategic plan?
Okay, that leads us to the difficult problem of our date for our July meeting. Typically what we do is we go to Harrison, and that would have been on the 21st. The strategic plan crowd, the consultants have walked us in for the 21st, a virtual meeting for the 21st for an hour on the 21st. Is that correct? And their schedule is not very flexible. And we'll say their schedule is pretty rich. Okay, how about that? I could see it be very challenging for us to have our regular meeting down in Harrison and try to do the strategic plan and really put some thought into it, be able to put time into it. So there is a thought that we could possibly have our regular meeting in Post Falls on Monday. And at Harrison in Post Falls. No, okay, let me start again. Okay. And on Monday in Harrison. Monday the 18th. Monday the 18th in Harrison, and that we would then meet again in Post Falls on Thursday for our virtual strategic plan meeting.
And there's a couple reasons for Monday. Harrison used to be closed on Thursday, so the board could easily meet in the middle of the library while they're closed to the public. Harrison is closed on Mondays, so we could still meet in the middle. I mean, it would be an open meeting, so it would be open to the public meeting, but the library's closed, so that if we're meeting in the middle of the library, we're not disrupting anybody that's coming in to check out books. There's really not a good situation if we have even 3 people that want to attend our board meeting besides us. It's really going to be really tight with all of us in Harrison meeting in the middle of the library. So that's why we proposed a date that we proposed. Or they proposed.
So just so I hope I didn't miss something, but then the consultants and the strategic plan would be presented to us on the 21st at Post Falls at what time? Sometime between 2 and 5 because we can't remember. Right? Is that right?
Well, so I had a lengthy discussion with them about were they going to meet the first hour or the last hour? And I left that piece of paper at my office, so I can't remember if it was the first hour or last hour. But so time to be determined. But since that's already a regular meeting time, hopefully that's already blocked on people's calendar, and I should be able to email you all tomorrow and tell you.
Okay, well the 18th works for me.
It may not for me.
At what time? At 2 o'clock still on the 18th? We can certainly adjust it depending upon, like, if you have parameters, like I can meet in the morning, but I can't meet at night. Do that. Possibly. I don't know.
Yeah, after 2 is fine.
After 2 at 2 o'clock.
Yes.
Or because at 2 o'clock in Harrison.
Yep.
So that. Yep. Okay. I got it. All right. So. Yeah.
I don't know yet, but I'm doing well.
I can do it myself. No. Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. What is the? It's really late if we go to the 25th. But what is the 25th? Is that a better day? We'll be back on.
It's very possible that we will need a special meeting anyway on the 25th or 26th. That's when our final numbers come in from the county. So we often have a special meeting that week. We were going to advocate for it to be earlier in the week versus later in terms of getting the budget hearing numbers published.
The other thing that we can do is attempt to do the whole kit and caboodle. I don't know. Thursday's a difficult day. I mean, we can expect public comment, and we have no room at Harrison. And we do it when they're open.
And the thing that you just brought up, Amy, that's not something that we could incorporate into our Monday the 18th. Monday the 18th.
No, I mean, we'll have a second draft for you. Then it just won't be the final gross numbers. We typically get those. Well, actually, we do get those the last Monday. So we won't have those numbers till the 25th. So option budget 3 is some next level draft is that week. But we get the numbers on the 25th, so we will probably wouldn't be ready to meet on the 25th, but we probably look at the 26th or 27th.
So, but you could combine the two, or do you think time-wise that could be?
I mean, if we just wanted to wait to see any draft at all, you know what I mean? Like, it's, yeah. Because we haven't really had much of the budget discussion.
No. Can I ask a question? Did we do what we were supposed to do in terms of a published budget? Is that something that we need to vote on?
So So we vote on it, and typically 2 weeks before the budget hearing, so that it's published. So typically that special meeting, the last week in July, is when we vote on a budget for publication, not the final approval.
Okay.
But it's,
Okay. All right. And we did do our budget hearing already, right?
we set a date.
Yeah.
Yes, and it's on August 11th.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know if it's either here nor there, but my folks are coming to visit me the last week of July. They don't get in until real late on the 26th, so I'd be fine meeting on the 25th or the 26th, but the rest of that week I prefer not to. They're flying a long way to see me.
Do we want? So
We're working. So Judy, you think you can make it or not on the 18th? You don't think you can make it?
Oh, company night, summertime.
Okay.
But check on that. The 27th,
27th? You
Right.
mean it's,
yeah.
we were. How does the 26th work? It sounds like that was good for Regina. That's good for getting the numbers. The afternoon of the 26th,
2 o'clock?
Right. Is this Harrison again?
no, this would be for
The budget.
unless we're combining. I think
That's 25.
Okay, the 26th.
and she'll have her
Like at 3?
How long?
The 26th wouldn't be terribly long. It would be like 3 to 5 maybe.
2 hours.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's what we did last time.
We could do 3 to 5 instead of 2 to 4.
Thank you, everybody, for trying. That's right.
Okay, we have changed it the 26th, which is a special meeting from 3 to 5. Is that correct? Wait a second. I want to make sure.
Yeah, I need a recap.
Okay, we're going to back up because we can't seem to figure out the week before. So we're going to, the meeting on the 26th,
What happened to the 21st?
we are going to back up. We are going to start on the 26th. Yeah, no, we have 3 meetings, Judy, that we're looking at.
Ready?
Okay, on the 26th, can you meet from 2 to 4 or 3 to 5?
Later the better.
Okay, 3 to 5 it is.
Is that at Post Falls?
Yes. Okay, that is a special meeting to look at the final numbers that we're going to be given.
Okay.
All right, now we need to go back and look at going to Harrison on Monday for a regular meeting, Monday the 18th, and then meeting for a special meeting on Thursday, the 21, for our strategic plan consultants meeting.
And the 21st, I only have that.
And I was wondering, okay, but the 18th does not work for you. Is that what you're saying?
I'm not sure yet. Check with all of the reports and what you know.
If we're going to, we're going to hold our budget hearing on August 11th, and we have to have published the budget by when?
By the 28th, 2 weeks, or I have to send it to them on the 28th. It gets published the week. So they need 6 to 7 days of notice. So I have to send it on the 28th. And then it will be published the week of.
How long do you think that meeting? I mean, I understand we're setting aside 2 hours, but I'm trying to be sensitive to Judy, and I'm not saying yeah, if we're talking about an hour and a half, I'm not saying that I couldn't be. I don't see how we could meet on the 28th.
So Judy, is it the 26th that's the problem, or it's the 18th that's the problem?
I have family here, 24th. So you just do the best you can with what you have, and I'll do the best I can.
With the morning of the 27th?
I can't do that.
No.
It is what I do. That's why I'm not thinking. That's why I'm thinking 21st. I won't have an answer.
I know, I'm trying to think of how we might get this.
How much more can we stuff into the 21st?
If that's not the problem. The problem is that if we take a regular, we should have thought about this before. If we take a regular board meeting down there with public comment as it is, and the library open, there is no room. And it really takes over the library's daily function if we meet here. Right, that's what we were looking at the 18th. Right.
Or can we have a board meeting in addition to Zoom? Or what's that? Here. So August 11th, regular board meeting. And
So that's the public budget.
for budget side.
Amy and I have a meeting tomorrow at 11. Why don't we put our heads together and see what we can do about this?
But I have it on, again, I hold on to August 18th.
How soon do you think you can find out about the 18th? Okay, I thought they would come next week. Okay.
So relatable. So we've been able to travel. Well, thank you, I'm sorry. But that's why I held on, hold people around, standard dates, so that's why I'm wanting to do something. I'll go through.
Oh, we can send. I know what time this Harrison close?
I think they're open like 1 to 6 on Thursday. Now, I mean, one option, maybe before Judy and I meet tomorrow, is what about Monday, July 11th? No. Just so Katie and I have a variety of options to consider. What about Monday, July 11th? So Harrison's closed on Monday. So that's why Monday's a good day to meet in Harrison.
That's for the regular.
That would be for our regular board.
Is that enough time for whatever's supposed to be happening? There's like that part. So that's really cutting it down. Is that?
Our draft is going to be fine-tuned, but the final numbers will be that third draft anyway. It does. It'll accelerate putting together the board packet. Yeah. So Harrison on Thursdays, 1 to 5.
Which day?
On Thursdays, it's 1 to 5.
So, yeah, they're.
I heard you say Monday the 11th.
Yes, let's go back to Monday the 11th. Let's talk about that. What about having a regular board meeting on Monday the 11th at Harrison? How would that work?
I'm good.
That's fine.
Oh, Rochelle says no.
No, we can't. No.
Sure. Yeah.
Are there any other days where Harrison closes earlier? No, I close at either 5 or 6.
But if it doesn't open until 1.
Could we meet in the morning?
We could, but if it's that same Thursday, the 21st, we would need to check with the consultants because they had blocked off the afternoon. And they're in 3 different states, is the other reason.
It could be really crazy, and we could meet twice the same day. We could meet at Harrison in the morning,
And then we come back to Post Falls to talk to the consultants. I know.
I would not mind that. I would not mind that. That would be okay. What do you guys think about that? We meet in Harrison in the morning on the 21st and then come back and meet with the consultant at Post Falls.
So, but you don't remember what time the consultants are. What if they're 2 o'clock?
That's just, what are you looking at? Let's pretend they're not.
Because the travel time, Harrison, and then the board meeting 3.5 hours, whatever it's going to be.
So we'll start at 9 and get done at noon, and then we'll run. No, nobody wants to do that. Nobody wants to do that. Don't think that you're the Lone Ranger. It is possible. I'll let you sleep in the back of my car.
I'm getting voted over, so.
No, you're not.
Yeah, I have. So sure. So not at 8 a.m. I'm not.
Oh. Yeah. Okay, what about that? What about that? That it sounds awful, but what about that?
If I have to.
Exactly.
I'll be grumpy though. Let me know in advance.
That will be fun. I really love that.
Yeah. The nice thing is, let's think about the brain power that we need to reserve for the afternoon. It's the consultants presenting to us. So.
That's so that we can stay awake and listen to them.
So what about then we look at 9 to noon in Harrison and on the 21st, and then whatever the consultants want for the afternoon in Post Falls. Yes?
I should know that tomorrow. I can tell you what time.
Okay.
Yeah, I actually have an issue with that one.
Okay.
I'm open to everything else, every other date you guys mentioned. I just want to throw that out there. This one, I just can't see it happening.
Okay. Then you could do the consultants.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because that one's been on the list.
I don't think that matters.
What about the 22nd? Oh, that's right, because it's open.
Right.
We're looking at
Last week, Mondays is right. Mondays is the only day. Actually, we should have thought about this way earlier, and I apologize. Mondays is the only day we can meet in Harrison. Unless we meet in the morning.
Can we recognize the audience? I just want to suggest maybe you guys could do the meeting before you guys, like the 10th or 9th.
Okay, I'm gonna. I appreciate this. Okay, Regina. My discussion beforehand says that we do not have.
Yeah, let's get the vote back.
Yeah, right. And no, that's fine. Except that I think that we need to. Anyway, it was her fault.
It's also very fun.
Yeah. Okay. I need a motion to extend this meeting to. I would ask that the motion be extended to 5:30. I don't want to stay till 5:30, but we can always leave earlier.
I move that we extend the meeting to 5:30.
Okay, it's been moved to extend the meeting to 5:30. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. I know nobody's in favor. Thank you for saying aye. Give us a minute to look at this. Judy, meanwhile, you see if there's any chance that you could meet on the 18th.
I look at August. The 15th. Because originally we're scheduled to meet with 17th. Yes.
Well, she's thinking, can I ask a question? So it was good. Do you guys usually go to Harrison on Thursdays?
It was
So we haven't been to Harrison in 2 years.
Right.
and Harrison used to be closed on Thursdays and changed in like 2020 or 2021.
I got
hours.
Let's wait until we're not advocating.
Okay, what I would like to do is just look quickly over the rest of the agenda. And I would like you to, is this okay with you if you and I couch this over tomorrow and see if we can come up with something creative rather than all of us who are brain dead?
Oh, and I, this occurred to me earlier, and I don't know why I didn't say it, but couldn't we go to Harrison in August?
What do we do in August? There's a reason why we stay. It's the budget hearing.
Well, the budget hearing is on the 11th. So the 18th, the only thing is moving around some of the library reports. So our managers keep these on their calendars so that they don't take vacation when they're scheduled to give us reports. But I mean, we could certainly talk to them, if we're going to switch it up. But we have two managers that we're going to present in August. But we could certainly change that.
When you say change that.
Thank you.
Well, I'm saying if we're not meeting in Hayden, we're meeting at Hayden in July, they may not be available, so we might not have a library in July. And then Harrison would do August. No, I mean, that's just a secondary.
Okay, we'll take all those things under consideration and see if we can come up with some amazing solution, at which point you guys will send us chocolate. Right? Okay. All right. The next item, on the agenda is Trustee Continuing Education, and I couldn't still on there because there's still a possibility of that. Facilities updates. No facilities updates. Legislative updates.
Actually, I back that up.
Okay, back up. Facilities.
This actually goes to the budget, but it's facilities because I felt like we kind of jumped ahead in the budget with some of Bob's report, which was great, but it means that I didn't give some context to other things. So there are two capital projects built into the budget. One of those was the Hayden roof that would come out of CARP. And then the other one was going to be a project that we had budgeted for this year. That was the remodel of the Harrison mechanical room. And we know already that because of the water issues, that won't happen, but we want it to happen. So that line 18, that 40,000 it was already in this year's budget, and we already know we just want to carry it forward to next year's budget. I know that we need to talk about where lines 18 and 19 actually go, but those two projects together, 185 for the Hayden roof and 40,000 for the Harrison remodel, are the only two capital projects in line 81. So I just wanted to be clear that 225 capital expenditure, those are the only two capital projects in there. Okay. And on Bob's spreadsheet, if we did take off the two income lines that he says shouldn't be there, line 18 and 19, then we should also take off line 81 so that becomes, it truly is zero.
Yeah.
It's not a negative 225. Just want to make sure.
I saw that. Okay. Thank you for telling me what the extra $40,000 is.
Yes, and so that's why we didn't quite get a chance to go through all of the sections.
Are there some funds set aside for project happening at Hayden that's no longer happening?
Let's see. Oh, the berm project. That's going to pay for the Spirit Lake project. And I think that's what we had talked a couple months ago and said that we were going to put the Hayden berm on hold to do the Spirit Lake parking lot. Yeah.
Okay. One of the things that absolutely needs to happen is we usually have at least 3 meetings on the budget. And we've had, it's been a truncated year a bit. And so we really do need a meeting next month where we will look carefully at the budget and not just say that the numbers fit. Because we need to, we really need to take a look at it. And I need to get really clear too. I personally need to get really clear on what our salaries are going to look like with the changes. And if we need to examine whether our percentages that we set a few years ago was too low, we need to look at that. Just because we set that doesn't mean that that's the right percentage. We need to know what that number is in order to look at that percentage and agree once again. That has been a useful percentage for me over and over. I do know that for a public entity, 63% is low. For a public entity that's a service entity, that 63% of the budget is very low. So we've been very good about it. All right.
We've also lost that.
Yeah, we have lost that.
Trade off.
Okay. Community announcements of any sort. Discussion on future agenda requests. The one was, and I don't know that it came forward from last time, or we didn't get it on this time, was that we look at board self-evaluation. A board that has been Judy's, and we're gonna talk about that, but not today.
No, and I think if we see what special meetings we need coming up, this is one that we can delay it, deal with it. And not five things.
All right.
So we'll keep it on the list, but no action for a while.
That sounds good. Then you keep punching the button, so
I know, yeah. Well, this is a new thing, but with the future agenda. And again, I'm not an expert on if I'm supposed to even bringing this up, but going to. I think it's maybe time to look at raising the cost of like colored prints and black and whites, copy machines. But I don't know if that's something the board would.
You know what? That's a perfect. Isn't that a perfect time to look at? You're raising the cost to the public on what we charge.
Like colored prints and black and white copies.
Isn't that a good budget discussion item?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
And so we can talk it. And then just FYI, anytime we do change those types of fees, we do have to have not a budget hearing. It's like a public hearing about that we're increasing the cost of color copies.
So we will. It's your responsibility to remember to bring that up during our next budget discussion. Different year. So okay, that sounds good. All right. Then we'll work on the special meetings, the meetings tomorrow, and see what we can come up with in terms of having heard what everybody's able to do or not do, and get back to you via email. So pay attention to your emails.
Yeah, before we leave it, then at least for my calendar, we all have set aside Tuesdays already, right? July 21st, standard meeting.
And the 26th?
And the 20th of August.
No, 26th of July, which is a special meeting from 3 to 5.
So I want to identify the two that we all know and all have on our calendars, being July 21st and August 20th. They're that standard meeting.
Okay, those
stay.
where we have.
And they're both at Post Falls, right? 21st and 26th.
Okay, she's not talking about the 26th.
Oh, what?
Yes. No, I'm just doing the first two that we all know we have, which is July 21st and August 18th.
Oh,
the two regular meetings.
So, hold on. Then what I was trying to figure out was how many more meetings we needed so we could have it. 26 is 50. What other? We have two other meetings besides the and the Zoom one with the result does occur. Right?
And we also have going to Harrison meeting.
And the Zoom meeting on the 21st doesn't take the full 3 hours to set aside for 4 meetings.
No, but we may divide up. One of the creative things we might be able to do is divide up the meeting and somewhat. But I'd like a little bit of opportunity to talk that over first. So I would say save the 2 to 5, 3 hours. Yep. And know for sure we have to meet that day in order to do the consultants. We need to figure out a time to go to Harrison. The only time we can go to Harrison is on a Monday, period. That is the only time we can go to Harrison.
Unless you go in the morning.
Oh, thank you. Okay. We can go in the morning. On which morning?
Saturday.
Tuesday through Saturday. We can go in the mornings. On Monday, we can go in the afternoon.
Thursday, Friday.
Okay. We can go in the morning on Thursday or Friday. We can go all day on Monday. Anytime on Monday.
And I know that we beat it to death, but since we're back on it, if the library is open from 1 to 5, and let's just say the consultants are in the latter half of that, can we do our meeting in the evening at Harrison? Is there a way to do the Zoom somewhere in Harrison that's not necessarily taking up the space in the library?
I think we can check. I mean, one of the creative solutions that I'll talk about with Katie is talking to our Harrison manager, Ani, to find out, is there any place, there to meet in terms of if we had to only meet that Thursday afternoon, right? Is there someplace else we meet in Harrison? Do the consultants plus any other regular meetings or whatever else we option. So I think we just need to find out if there's some.
All right. Yeah. There's some thinking. Is that good? Is everybody okay with that?
Yeah, I think everybody kind of hard. Sorry, times and then I go for a
Well, and it is summer.
because the company coming around in second. Now get so all you have to do, we'll fill them in.
Okay. So at this point, then we can entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
Okay. It's been moved. We adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Thank you all.